Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Talking Ball podcast. We're here with episode 5. I am Jack, joined by Keaton. How are you, Keaton?
Doing awesome. Excited to talk today.
Me too. So today we have a fun episode planned. First off, Keaton's going to kick us off with a game. You want to explain your game for us?
Yep. So this game is called the Thunder Emoji Game. I have taken 5 images from Google, um, just kind of random thunder images, and I have blocked out one player's face and number with an emoji. And Jack is going to try to use the context of the photo, the other players in the photo, and just general context to try to figure out who the mystery player is. And like, there's 5 photos, and it's going to range from easy, and then the last one's going to be pretty hard. So, without further ado, let me share my screen. Jack, are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
All right, first photo. There you go.
All right. I'm going to go on a whim here and say this is James Harden.
Oh, that is James Harden. How'd you
Wow.
get that one?
Just a gut feeling there.
We're going to get to the second one a little harder here. And these images range from good quality to a little blurry,
Okay.
so also bear with that a little bit.
I like it. I think this here is Danilo Gallinari.
Boom, 2 for 2. Let's
Wow.
see. Let's see how you do on picture number 3.
Okay. Here, let me move my face over. Um, this one's a little tougher. Those of you listening on Spotify, I would suggest checking out YouTube for this, by the way. But um, I think this is Derek Fisher.
It is Derek Fisher, and we are
Oh,
happy Derek Fisher Day. We are 37 days away from the start of the
hmm.
Thunder season. That is why I did Derek Fisher.
Happy Derek Fisher Day. Ooh, all right. Here we've got, I believe we have Abdul Nader.
Man.
Ah, can I try again?
Oh yeah, you can try as many times as you want.
I'm gonna go with he's joined by Shay and Lou there. George Hill.
There's George Hill.
Okay, okay.
All right, fifth and final one.
Huh. I mean, kind of looks built like Chris Paul, but that wouldn't make sense with the other guys in the photo. Is that Teo Maladone?
Booyah! Good job, Jack.
Boom. All
And
right,
that
that was
that
fun.
concludes the Thunder emoji game.
That was fun. Good idea. Um, next up, um, we're gonna go through the off season, kind of recap everything that happened, because it's been a while since the most of the moves have gone down, and with the season starting pretty soon, we could probably use a refresher on where different players went. And we also, while we focus on the Thunder, we also want to provide a good amount of talk of the league in general. And as huge Thunder fans, it's also important to have a grasp on the league as a whole as well. So today we're going to go over all the players, or we'll see how many we get through today, but um, we'll start at least going over all the players who switched teams this offseason. Now I've compiled them all together. This list does not include rookies. It does not include, um, well, I guess that's all it doesn't include. It includes everything else. Now I went through the transactions and took out the rookies and also took out guys that were just waived and didn't find a new team. So those guys aren't on here. It's just guys that were on a team and now they're on a new team. So and some of these guys, you'll have to think back a couple years to think of their old team because they just weren't on a team for the past year or two. So now
Wow.
that's only a couple instances on the list, but um You ready?
Yeah, and then like are we rating these moves or how
Yeah,
how
I
do
think
you
so I'm gonna give you the player, and first off, you're gonna try to guess their old team and their new team. And we'll just keep track of how many you get just for fun. Um, and then we'll briefly discuss them and kind of give the new team a grade on the acquisition and briefly talk about how we think they may impact. Now, some of these guys are just on like two-way contracts or something like they won't have a huge impact. So some guys obviously we'll talk about more than others, but and some guys will be way more obvious to get right their teams more than others. So I think that's how we're gonna do it. So you ready to
Perfect.
kick it off?
Let's get it started.
All right. So as a Thunder fan, this one might be a little easier for you. But first off, we're gonna start with Josh Giddey.
Oh yeah. So I'm gonna go ahead and give you the old team and then the new team. So he went
Yep.
from the Thunder to the Bulls,
Yep. And I guess we'll go ahead and get the corresponding move out of the way. Alex Caruso.
from the Bulls to the Thunder.
There you go. All right. So you got both of those. How would you grade the Bulls acquiring Josh Giddey?
The Bulls going into a little bit of rebuild mode. I think it's a pretty good acquisition. Josh has a lot to offer. He just wasn't really given a good role to maximize his talents here in Oklahoma. Um, I think the Bulls backcourt is a little convoluted with Kobe White kind of taking off too. I don't necessarily think that Josh Giddey has the clear-cut starting point guard role by any means. Yeah, so I think that that can get a little confusing there, but it's not really our problem to stress about anymore. But as far as a grade, I think it's like a B plus. Like it's good. It's good.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the thing that Josh Giddey needed that kind of caused him to um, not perform as well towards the end of his time in Oklahoma City was a bigger role and kind of be more of a primary ball handler and playmaker. And we just couldn't offer him that because we had better players that also needed the ball in their hands. And so I believe, I mean, I don't think there's any situation he could go and just be the guy that always has the ball in his hands. And so um, while it's not ideal that he shares those reps with a guy like Kobe White, um, I mean, he's never going to find a situation where he has all the ball handling duties. So I think they'll be just fine and be able to give both of them a good amount of reps on the ball. And so, yeah, I think it's a great move for both sides. And I agree with your rating of a B plus. And like now that the Bulls aren't really playing anything, they can kind of experiment and see what works out for their future. So, and then we've talked about the Alex Caruso move some already, just obviously going to our team, the Thunder. But I think he's a perfect fit for us and kind of gives us the things that we would have loved Josh Giddey to be better at. Just being a guy that doesn't really need the ball in his hands and can just kind of shoot and force the defenses to stay on him out in the corner and also be one of the best perimeter defenders in the league. So it's really just the perfect fit, and I'm really pleased with the value we got there out of Giddey.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty clear-cut A plus. Um, can't really get much of a better fit than Alex Caruso on the Thunder. And so, time will tell if that is true, but on paper, I think it looks great.
Right. All right, next up, we have a guy that's been in the news a little bit lately, kind of some unfortunate situation with him. I mean, we don't really know all the details of what's going on, but I mean, he does qualify still for this, I guess, just because he was on one roster last year and technically now he still is on a new roster. But can you tell me AJ Griffin's old team and new team?
He went from the Hawks to the Rockets.
Yes. And I don't really know if we need to grade that. Just, I mean, it's kind of a unique situation. I mean, I don't really know what's going on with AJ Griffin, but he's a young, promising player, and there's been news lately of him possibly stepping away from basketball, and I'm sure there's some personal reasons involved there, but in addition to the fact that Houston had a lot of young guys that they just need to get minutes to, so I don't really know what all is going on there, but
Yeah, I agree. That probably gets a NA, not applicable to our rating scale.
yep. And then another Thunder related guy, we have Lindy Waters the third.
He got traded on the day of the second round of the draft to the Warriors from the Thunder.
Yep. And grade wise here, I mean, we can give him a C or something like that.
Yeah, I would agree. I don't really think it's a move of consequence by any means.
Right. But it's cool to see Lindy getting another chance with another team and um someone actually wanting to acquire him. And but I just think the Warriors are really deep in terms of like they have a lot of role players that they need to get minutes to. So I just don't think he'll get a lot of time up with their their team. Maybe he'll spend some time with their G League team or something.
Yeah, it is sort of a fun fit for Lindy because when I think of the Warriors, I think of the three ball. And when I think of Lindy, I also think of the three ball being one of his best uh, attributes. And so I think him going up there and just kind of having the free reign to let it fly whenever he's out there is a pretty fun opportunity for him.
Right, right. It is kind of weird to think about how he's feeling playing basketball in Oklahoma his whole life and then kind of unexpectedly being shipped off to San Francisco. But
Right.
still cool he's getting that opportunity. Next up, we have Jalen McDaniels. You remember his?
I know he was on the Raptors. I'm gonna guess the 76ers.
Well, you got one of those right. He went from Toronto to Sacramento.
All right.
And then we'll cover this one too, real quick. Davion Mitchell.
I'm gonna guess. So I know he was on Sacramento.
Hmm.
Is he on the Raptors now?
Yes. So those guys got traded for each other on June 28th, with McDaniels going from Toronto to Sacramento and Davion Mitchell going from Sacramento to Toronto. So you got 3 points on those two guys there. But what do you think about their fits with their new teams?
I think similar to kind of the Josh Giddey analysis of that Caruso Giddey trade, the Raptors getting Davion Mitchell, I think, is pretty solid. Just kind of turning a new leaf as they're rebuilding, kind of around Scotty Barnes. Davion Mitchell is a young point guard that's got a lot to offer defensively and with some offensive plus side or upside. Like I think he could be like a potential, um, sixth man. Like I think that that's probably what I would see his ceiling being for like a competitive team. But I think it's an exciting new kind of player for them. And then for the Kings are a little deeper and in a different situation than the Raptors. I think Jalen McDaniels is exciting young wing, but it's pretty much my analysis of that.
Yeah, I think I'll give the Davion Mitchell acquisition like a B minus, and Jalen McDaniels to the Kings like a C plus.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
All right, next up we've got on July 2nd, we had Colin Gillespie. You remember where he went from and to?
Was he on the Knicks?
No,
Okay. Did he go to the Knicks?
nope, no
Okay.
Knicks.
0 for 2 on Colin Gillespie.
That's okay. I doubt I would have gotten that either. Well, I might have known the team he went from. He went from Denver to Phoenix.
Oh yeah, I just did not remember that at all.
Yeah. A lot of these guys, it's kind of they just fly under the radar and may not even be on real contracts. So, but as far as a rating here, I mean, I don't know a lot about him, but I know he's a young guy that and it's cool to see Phoenix giving him a chance. So, um I'll give it a C.
Yeah, I think this is a case of Phoenix balling on a budget to fill their roster up since they've got all those ginormous contracts.
Right. Right. Okay, next up, a more notable name. We have Monte Morris.
Yeah. He's bounced around a little bit. Oh, okay. Let's see. I want to say he was on the Timberwolves. Is that right?
Yes.
And um did he go to the Suns?
Yes. There you go.
Let's go.
I really like this move for the Suns. I mean, before the trade deadline, we kind of we saw Monte Morris as a bigger asset. Um, he was a great backup point guard for a lot of years for the Nuggets.
Yes.
And then going to the Timberwolves at the trade deadline, we thought he would play a bigger role and kind of be a big part of their playoff push. But then they kind of still lean more towards Jaleel McLaughlin than we thought they would. And so we didn't get to see him a whole lot. Um, but when he went to Phoenix this offseason, I was really excited for them because he's just a ball handler that you can trust to play make, and they didn't really have a lot of that last season. Now this was they acquired him before they eventually acquired Tyus Jones, so but acquiring both of those guys I think is a huge win for the Suns. So I'll give that move an A minus.
Yeah, I wonder here I can look up what the contract details on that was because I agree.
I'm sure it was small because Phoenix can't do much else other than small contracts. So um, yeah, there are a lot of moves here that we'll cover that just Phoenix kind of getting some steals, honestly.
Yeah, let's see here. He signed, yeah, a league minimum.
Yeah, that's awesome for the Suns.
Oh yeah, that's amazing.
Um, next up we got Mason Plumlee.
Um,
Love Mason. You know,
was he on the Nuggets?
no, I mean he was at some point, but
Right.
not his last team.
Let's see. This is gonna be a 1 out of 29 guess because I know he's not on the Thunder. Pistons.
No, he went from the Clippers to the Suns. So you see,
Whoa, the Suns made three back-to-back-to-back moves right here.
yes. So the Suns were making some money moves on the league minimum here. Again, like bang for your buck. Mason Plumlee's been a vet that provides you some size and some depth, and so I think that's a good move for them. So, what do you think?
Yeah, they're not really too deep at the center spot, so I think getting a veteran like Mason Plumlee on a cheap deal is pretty solid. Can't complain.
Right. I'll give him a B. All right, next up, Mo Bamba.
I know he's on the 76ers. Is that right?
Like old team or new team?
New team,
No, that was his old team.
old team. Okay. Well, let me try to think of the new team. Geez, I just don't know. Mo Bamba, Pistons.
No, he went from the Sixers to the Clippers. Um, I remember.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
remember when the Clippers just tried to scramble and get a lot of cheap guys right after they found out Paul George was leaving. So this was one of those guys. They just kind of threw together what they could there, kind of out of desperation. It
and
seemed
they
like
lost Plumlee.
they lost Plumlee, got Mo Bamba. So I guess as a Mason Plumlee replacement,
Yeah, it's
Mo Bamba's
fine.
fine.
It doesn't move me by any means.
Right. I'll give it a C plus. I mean, Mo Bamba's kind of not really been too much of in rotations like for the last few teams he's played for. So next, Alec Burks.
Alec Burks was on the Knicks.
Mm-hmm. Briefly. Yes.
Now is he on the Pistons?
No, he was on the Pistons before the Knicks, before the trade deadline, but now he's on the Heat.
Oh, that's fun.
So, yeah, I thought that was kind of an underrated move there. Um, the Heat have lost some of their guard depth. So it always helps to have a vet that you can trust to come in and make some shots. So, what do you want to grade that?
I think that's really good for the Heat. Like, let's go A minus.
Okay.
I really like Alec Burks, especially as somebody that can just come off the bench and get a bucket.
Yeah. Okay. Our next guy is James Wiseman.
Gosh. He was on the um obviously he got drafted to the Warriors. He was on the Pistons. Trying to think if his last team was the Pistons or if he was somewhere else. I'm gonna say his last team was the Pistons.
Yes, it was.
Then I'm gonna say his new team. I can't believe there's even a new team with him. Um, the Wizards.
No, he's now on the Pacers. Um, and this move kind of confused me when it happened, just because Pacers coming off the Eastern Conference Finals appearance, and the thing about them was I always thought they had too many guys in the front court that they needed to play, and they couldn't even play the guys that they had. They had this past season, they had Siakam and Turner and Obi Toppin and Andrew Nimhard, if you want to count him as a forward. And they had Jarris Walker, their rookie that they couldn't even play,
And
and
Isaiah Jackson.
Isaiah Jackson, yes. And so it kind of just confused me that their first acquisition this summer was to get another big guy that they likely won't have minutes for. And if they
Right.
do, then it just means they don't have minutes for one of those guys. So I
Yeah, it is
thought,
weird.
yeah, I thought their strategy would be to find a way to clear up that, um, to maybe find Jarris Walker some minutes or something like that. But um, I mean, the Pacers are still going to be a great team, and
Yeah. It's another one of those moves that's just not really a move of consequence. Like, I don't see that being a factor at all for how
right,
they their success.
yeah, I'll give it a C just because it's kind of confusing. So
Yeah, that's what I would give it as well.
this one's pretty tough. I don't know if you'll get it, but it's Isaiah Hartenstein.
Oh, here we go. Now we're back in my wheelhouse. New York Knicks to Thunder.
There you go. You got your first green in a while. So,
Yeah, I've been on a cold streak.
you want to speak a little on that move there?
Similar to the Caruso move. I mean, we've talked about this in previous podcasts. I think this is one of the best fits that you can imagine for the Thunder. He is elite defensively. He has excellent vision in swinging the ball around, finding the open man. He's going to provide much needed size, rebounding strength to the Thunder. He can provide lineup versatility. He could be in the starting lineup potentially. He could be on a bench unit. He could close out a game. You never know. I mean, he just provides unlimited opportunity for this new Thunder team. And so I'm really excited for Isaiah Hartenstein. I think it's another A to A plus move.
A plus. I was very excited when we got him. Biggest free agent signing in Thunder history, and it was I. Every time someone even mentioned him, I was like, no, no, no. He's not going to leave the Knicks. But
Oh yeah, and I mean you've got to take into a lot of like considerations with leaving New York. It's like New York to Oklahoma City. When you just think of those two cities alone, like New York probably is a more flashy, um, nice uh place to live, I guess. I don't know
yeah,
about place to live, but definitely a bigger place. But on top of that, like um the Knicks had an incredible offseason. Like they had a lot of stuff going their way with Jalen Brunson taking the pay cut to get Mikal Bridges in, getting OG Anunoby to resign. Now, I understand that he got an absolute bag from the Thunder, but bag aside, the Knicks is a great situation, are in a great spot right now in the Eastern Conference. And so it shows a lot that he was willing to come to the Thunder. It shows what he thought about the organization and just kind of the impression that the organization made on him.
Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, great move, A plus. Next up, okay, that Isaiah Hartenstein move was one of 23 moves on July 6th. So this is the speed round, the July 6th speed round, okay?
Speed round. Here we go.
All right, first up, Joe Ingles.
Jingles was on the Magic.
Yep.
Um, Warriors.
Bucks.
Bucks. Okay.
No. Not Bucks. Timberwolves. I'm sorry.
Ooh.
Timberwolves.
Was he on the Magic?
He was on the Magic, so you got one there.
Okay. Good.
This was another kind of confusing move. I don't know if I don't think Joe Ingles did a whole lot for the Magic last year when he was out
No.
there. Maybe just one of those moves to kind of get it into the bench vet, a guy that has been around, won't play a whole lot, but um, I
Let me
just
look at what that contract was. I know this is a speed round, but
yeah,
uh,
I don't think it was a large contract, but um,
it's a minimum.
yeah. So it was probably for Joe Ingles either retire or kind of find a team to hang out on and give some vet leadership and not very play a whole lot or play very much. So I'll give it a B minus just because can't hurt to have some vets in the locker room. This just in, Dwight Howard just performed on Dancing with the Stars and apparently had a great performance. So good for Dwight. Glad he's um, finding some endeavors outside of basketball.
That's
That,
breaking news.
yes, yeah. Sorry, breaking
Wow.
news on the pod.
Emergency pod. Dwight Howard had a good
He
performance.
did well. Dwight's the kind of guy that even if he can't get on an NBA team, he's gonna find something he's good at.
Oh yeah, he's gonna dance.
All right, next up, Contavious Caldwell Pope.
I know this one. He went from the Nuggets to the Magic. Love it for the Magic. When I watched the Magic in the playoffs, the one thing that I thought that they could use is floor spacers. And Contavious Caldwell Pope is a great floor spacer, great veteran. He's pretty solid on the defensive end too. Like I think he can just really do it all. I think he should be able to just be plugged into the starting lineup. I haven't really looked at their lineup, but
Oh, he should be. If they want to go like a conventional two guard. I mean, I could see them maybe running a lineup of like Suggs and like Cole Anthony together, or maybe eventually Anthony Black in there once he develops. But I think for now to start out, they paid Contavious a lot. He gives you the defense and the three ball that you need. He's a vet, and every time I thought of the Magic, I'm like, they're a good team, but it's just kind of an eyesore to see that Gary Harris in the starting lineup. So I think he'll just kind of slide right in there perfectly and give them pretty much everything that Gary Harris kind of was lacking. Although Gary Harris wasn't a bad defender, but um, I think more notably for than the plus KCP will be for the Magic is that the Nuggets are losing a lot there.
oh yeah.
They're losing some depth and they're going to have to rely on some young guys to kind of play a bigger role. And we don't really know if their young guys are ready for that or ever going to be at that level. So they're going to kind of have to be forced to rely on some guys that they're kind of unsure of. So we'll see how that happens. But as far as the Magic goes, I'll give them an A for this move.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think KCP and Aaron Gordon, for that matter, are two awesome role players for the Nuggets that have the Nuggets kind of showed that you can construct a roster around a superstar with just solid role players. You don't need to bolster the roster with three superstars or whatever. Like if you just have people that know their role, like Aaron Gordon, KCP, even MPJ, you could say. Um, etc. That can be really good. So I think you kind of see Oklahoma City learning from that in a way of adding Alex Caruso to the team, of just saying, who's a guy that isn't going to need the ball in his hands all the time, but just can know his role and fit the mold of this team. And so I think Alex Caruso can be kind of a KCP to the Thunder in
Right.
that.
Right. I mean, a lot of times teams have tried to be like, the way to success is stacking as many superstars as possible. Like we saw the Nets try it with Harden, Kyrie, KD. We saw the Suns try it with Booker and Beal and KD. Like we've seen teams try to just stack superstars, but that's not really how teams that have actually won the championship have wound up being successful. You get your stars, and then you find who's the best complementary players that we can fit around them. And that's how the recent champions, especially, have been successful and gotten to that point. Because a lot of times, if you just get as many superstars as possible, then you're forced to kind of fill the rest of your roster with a lot of minimum guys that would not be your first choice, and you don't know if they fit or not. It's just kind of all you can get at that point. So, yeah, I agree. Um, that was kind of a tangent, but we'll move on to Najee Marshall.
Najee Marshall, one of my favorite players on the Pelicans, went to the Mavericks.
Yep, yep.
Excellent move from the Mavs. Love this move. Um, let's start doing our actual speed round here. I'm just gonna say that this move is a B.
Yeah. He provides you defense and shooting, so it'll be cool to see him there. Next up, we got Quentin Grimes.
Quentin Grimes was on the Pistons. Oh, sorry. Was he on the Pistons?
Yes.
Okay. Let's see. And then he also went to the Mavericks.
Yep. Quentin Grimes, I mean, when he's been given a chance, he looks fine. He's still a young guy that needs to develop some, but I believe he can provide the Mavericks some depth at the guard position, and so I think it's a fine move that we can give a C plus to.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay, Tim Hardaway Jr.
Tim Hardaway went from the Mavs to the Pistons.
Yes. And with him, I mean, I think it's more of a Mavs dub to get rid of him. I know they've probably been trying to get off his contract for a while, and he hasn't been the same player as of late. So I think they're grateful that there's a team like Detroit in the league that'll just take off your money. So, um,
Yes.
but as far as the Pistons go, we can give the Pistons more of a C for this move, just because I don't really know what the point is. But in their case, they're just kind of like, why not? So,
Do they still have Troy Weaver at the helm?
no, they got a guy that was on the Pelicans staff, that is now their GM. Trajan Langdon, I believe is his name. And
So did he make that move?
I believe so. I think that switch happened before free agency. So,
I'm so glad that we're not a Pistons podcast. I would hate talking about that move. Um, yeah, who's up next?
okay, I'll go with two guys at once here. You tell me, Denny Avdia and Malcolm Brogdon there.
Yeah, they were traded from each other. Denny was traded from Washington to Portland, and then vice versa.
Yes. That trade, I mean, I was a little confused by it at first. Let's see. I think Portland probably won the trade just because, um, well, I mean, looking at this on paper, just Denny Avdija for Malcolm Brogdon, it looks like Portland won. But when you think about the fact that Washington also got that pick that got them Bub Carrington, uh,
Okay, yeah, that's very fair.
yeah, I'm remembering that. So, I mean, it's just kind of a weird trade to make, honestly. But I guess I would grade Portland getting Denny Avdija like a B because he's a good player, but I just don't know why they wanted to get him bad enough to give up a lottery pick for him. But and then as far as Washington goes, just strictly on grading getting Malcolm Brogdon, I mean that's like a C move just because that's not the kind of player they need when they're in the mode that they are trying to rebuild. But overall trade, I would give Washington the win on the trade probably.
Yeah, it's exciting getting Bub. I think I'm probably a little higher on Portland getting Denny, but I think for a team like Portland, getting a guy like Denny is exciting just because they're kind of in the phase of their rebuild where they're just trying to see what good guys stick and outperform or really show up. So I think Denny has the tools to be a guy to really solidify himself in a rotation in Portland. And maybe by the time they're competitive years down the line, he can be on the team. I have no idea, but
Yeah.
I think B is fair.
Okay. Next up is um we'll cover three guys at once. They were all involved in a deal together. Mikal Bridges, Keita Bates Diop, Shake Milton.
They're going from the Nets to the Knicks.
Yeah, and then Shake Milton from the Knicks to the Nets. But
Okay.
I mean, I'll give you the points there. What do you think about that trade?
It's a absolute win for the Knicks. I mean, anything. Now they did give a whole throng of picks to the Nets as well. But when you look at that offer, like you can't pass up the opportunity to add a guy like Mikal Bridges to the team, even if that is a little rich. I understand, but the opportunity for Jalen Brunson, like I said earlier, to take the pay cut, OG Anunoby to come back to add Mikal. You got the Nova Knicks vibe for the chance to re-sign Hartenstein. Everything that was going on, uh, or I guess was Hartenstein already out the door at this point?
No, not yet.
Yeah, because I was gonna say I thought that that happened a little before, but
Yeah,
just
I think this is just because the
it
trade
became official.
became official on this day. Yeah.
Yeah, so with the opportunity for Hartenstein to join, like that's borderline like absolute super team.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm really high on that trade for the Knicks, or maybe not even the trade, just the acquisition in general. Um, Taking the picks out of it. So I think that's an A to an A plus.
Yeah. I mean, if we want to grade the trade overall, I mean, I think both teams kind of did what they needed to do. Um,
Yeah.
the Knicks are fully in win now mode and they're committing to that. They're going all in. The Nets, there's no need for them to have Mikal Bridges right now because they aren't contending, and it was a smart move for them to just kind of stock up on picks and then right after that go get their own picks back so they can fully commit to the tank. Um,
Yeah, which is interesting. Like, I agree. Getting their own picks back was critical, but why do why do they still have Finney Smith? Why do they still have Cam Johnson? Why do they still have all of these other players that are going to, I mean, that have value? So I'm just a little confused by that because Cam Johnson is without a doubt somebody A that has value, but B is going to help you win, and they don't want to win.
right. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do like throughout the season. Maybe dump some guys at the deadline or something like that. Um, or maybe they'll do some things like the Thunder did, where they just shut guys down because they're helping them win too much. But we'll see.
Yeah, it kind of feels unfair to Cam in a way, especially like him because he's still kind of a young guy that has a lot to offer, I feel. So
Right,
that night when that trade happened, I was immediately drawing up Cam Johnson trades on the trade simulator on my league or whatever.
right. Okay. Next up, another move that just kind of confused me. Jonas Valanciunas.
Yeah, Jonas Valanciunas went from the Pelicans to the Wizards.
Right. And I just didn't really understand why the Wizards did that. Why not just, I mean, maybe they're going to run Sar at the four, but why not just let your young guys play and tank? And why pay a vet solid center like that $30 million to over 3 years, I think it was. it just doesn't really make sense to me. I'll give it a C.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense to me at all.
Um, okay. Josh Green.
Josh Green was on the Mavericks. Did he go to the Hornets?
Yes. And I think that's a fine move for the Hornets. I could see him being a part of their future. I mean, they don't have a ton of pieces to build around, and he's already proved he can be a solid role player, so he'll get plenty of run with them. Um, I mean, this was just kind of a move the Mavericks had to make, I believe, to acquire Klay Thompson. Um, but I'm kind of interested to see what Josh Green does in a bigger role, and I'll give it a B for the Hornets.
Yeah, it, it'll be fine. The Hornets just have they're kind of in a similar situation like Portland, where they just kind of have a whole mess of young players that they kind of just need to find out who is legit and who's not.
Yeah. Okay. Um, Kyle Anderson.
Oh yeah, he went from the Kyle Anderson was on the Timberwolves and he went to the Warriors.
Yes. And what about Buddy Hield?
Buddy Hield went from the Pacers to the Warriors.
He actually went from the Sixers to the Warriors. He ended, yeah, he
Oh,
ended the
yeah.
season with the Sixers there, after getting dealt from the Pacers at the deadline. But both of these guys, um, I think they'll be really good for the Warriors. Kind of provides them depth. Um, Kind of gives them what they lost in Klay Thompson, and I believe the Warriors will be still fighting for those play-in spots just because they were able to go acquire some depth this offseason. I'll give both of these moves B pluses if you're okay with that.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. Um, let's try to get through a few more here. Maybe let's move a little quicker. But Klay Thompson.
He went from the Warriors to the Mavericks.
Yep. I mean, obviously a weird move just seeing him not be on the Warriors.
Right.
But I think he'll be good on the Mavericks.
Yeah, I think it just is going to depend on what version of Clay that we get. We've seen Clay be incredible. We've seen him be not incredible. And
Yeah.
so if he can step up and just be a 40% free th or three-point shooter and really good off balls, spreading the court for Luca, I mean, that's going to be an ideal fit.
Yeah.
If he can't shoot the three ball, if he just looks washed, then it's
Mhm.
not going to be everything that it could be. So I don't know. That's
Yeah.
kind of my thought on it.
I'll give it a B plus for the Mavericks just because they don't really need him to be great, I guess, because they don't need him to be like a high usage guy. So if he is, then great. So it's kind of a low risk, high reward situation here for
Oh,
them.
for sure. Yeah. Overall, I think it's a great move for the Mavs.
Okay, here I'll give you four guys at once, all involved in the same deal. I'll give you Cody Zeller, Larry Nance Jr., Dyson Daniels, DeJounte Murray.
Okay. So will you read those players one more time?
DeJounte Murray, Dyson Daniels, Larry Nance Jr., Cody Zeller.
So Dyson Daniels, Cody Zeller, Larry Nance Jr. were all on the Pelicans going to the Hawks. DeJounte Murray was on the Hawks going to the Pelicans.
Yes. What are your thoughts on that trade for both sides?
Love it. Love it for, I guess, the Pelicans, I suppose. Um, Cody Zeller doesn't do much for me. Dyson Daniels is a good young talent. Larry Nance is a great veteran role player. But I think that they're kind of at a crossroad where they need to decide, like, because what they were doing is not working.
Right.
Um,
I'm
Now,
glad they
granted,
did something.
they didn't have Zion in the playoffs, which is a factor for sure. But they needed to do something to just to make a change and figure something out. And the Hawks are kind of in the exact same position, in a worse position, even with just not even making the playoffs. So I think overall it's a great move for the Pelicans. If they can keep everybody healthy, then on paper they should be a really good team this year. Um, the Hawks, uh,
I mean, for the Hawks, I going into the offseason, I was like, what can the Hawks do? Because they just seemed kind of stuck and they weren't going anywhere. But so I'm glad they did something. And DeJounte Murray didn't really work out for him. So I'm glad they kind of moved on and saw that and got something for him. So now they can kind of test out their young guys, maybe test the waters for Trey Young eventually, and see how this lineup works. And I mean, it you can't go wrong because you had to mix something up, and we'll
yeah.
just see where they can go from here. So
Now, weren't there picks also involved in that from the Pelicans to the Hawks?
yes, I don't remember exactly what they were, but
So that makes it better on the trade front.
right.
The player acquisition front, I think, is fine, but the overall trade is better, like for the Hawks than it would look by the player acquisitions. But yeah, we can move on.
Okay. Caleb Martin.
Caleb Martin was on the Heat and went to the 76ers.
Yeah. Oh, looking back at the trade, I'll give the Hawks and the Pelicans both like B pluses if you're good with that.
Yeah.
Um, and I like Caleb Martin going to the Sixers. I kind of at that point I kind of wanted him to go to Thunder. Just he was one of the last available solid free agents that was good on it, going for a cheap deal. Um, but I mean they got him right after Paul George, and I think he adds some depth, and it'll be cool to see what they can do with a guy that can kind of come in and score like that.
Yeah, it'll be fun. He's an awesome role player for them. So I like it. Maybe an A.
Yeah. Then next up we have Paul George.
Going from the Clippers to the Sixers,
Yep. A plus move here.
A plus. They had to get Embiid, somebody that's uh really good as well. And so Maxey, George, and Embiid will be a good trio, surrounding them with other talent. Let me look at their roster real quick.
Yeah, when thinking about their team now, I mean, it's kind of scary if they can all stay healthy. So I think they can really make some noise. And yeah, they just had to get another star, and it's really good for them that they could do that without really having to give up any assets. So, I mean, this is one of the only star players moving in free agency that we've seen in a while. So good for the Sixers. A plus move.
Yeah, looking at their roster, I don't really think of them as a super deep team. So maybe their depth is going to be the death of them. But um, yeah, definitely looking at their roster, I think Caleb Martin is going to get some minutes.
Yeah, he might start at the four for him, honestly.
Yeah. And then they signed the Yabusele from France after the Olympics.
We'll get there. We'll get there.
Oh, that's true. Spoiler.
All right. You got DeLon Wright.
Oh. Uh, Heat?
He was on the Heat.
Yeah. Going from the Heat to the Delon. Let's go Spurs.
He went to the Bucks. I mean, here I think this was a fine move. The Bucks like getting really old players.
Yeah. They they like surrounding Giannis with the oldest past the prime players as possible.
Right. But I mean, they picked up some vet guys that can be role players and have proven they can do that. So you can't fault them there. B minus. I mean,
Yeah.
there's only so much you can do with the vet minimums. So, okay, Chris Paul.
Chris Paul went from the Warriors to the Spurs.
Yep. And what do you think about that?
I think this move is like 100% to do with mentoring Wemby. Uh, I don't see the Spurs being competitive. I think Chris Paul has proven to be a great leader and mentor, and he still has some to offer, even though he's one of the oldest players in the league. So I think it's overall a good move from the Spurs. I think having Chris Paul and Greg Popovich on the same sideline is going to be uh, pretty incredible.
Yeah. We'll give it like a B.
Yeah.
You know where Andre Drummond went from and to?
Andre, um, he's on the 76ers now. And I
Yep.
know that because I just looked up the 76ers roster, got to be honest. Um, was he on the Bulls? Yes.
Yes. There you go.
'Cause I remember he crossed up Chet,
Yes.
91.
I mean, a move like this, honestly, is pretty good for them. I mean, adding depth with a team that we said doesn't have a lot of it. So, and just another guy can come in and provide scoring in the post and rebounding. So that's an A minus.
Yeah, and Embiid gets a lot of usage, and so just having somebody that's pretty good to be able to just come in and give him relief whenever he needs it is pretty valuable.
Right. And Embiid doesn't play every game, so it'll be nice to have some. So, okay, how many more do you think you want to get through here?
Let's do maybe two more, and then let's get to our player rankings. We got a few player rankings to do.
Okay. Um, Tobias Harris.
Tobias Harris went from the Sixers to the Pistons.
Yep. And again, the Pistons will just throw out money. I mean, we were saying Tobias Harris was on one of the league's most overpaid contracts before, and then it finally ran out, and then he got about the same amount of money again. So he doesn't really produce a lot compared to how big his contracts have been. So it's kind of like confusing how why teams throw this money at him.
Yeah.
He's got a great agent, but
Yeah.
For the Pistons, I'll give it a D plus. It's just I don't know what direction they think they're going.
If they're not careful, I think they're gonna find themselves in the middle for a decade.
Or the
Like,
bottom.
or like because they are tanking in the complete wrong way.
Yeah.
They are just making moves like this that are gonna make them a little bit better, but in a period where they have like zero they have nothing going for them right now except for having like Cade and Sar Thompson is good. But like who did they draft this year?
Ron Holland.
Ron Holland. Like just let those players play. You're going to hinder your development when you bring guys in like Tobias Harris or who did we talk about earlier that they brought in?
Um, he's the first guy. Oh wait, no, Tim Hardaway.
Yeah, when you bring guys like in like Tim Hardaway, like what are you doing? That's just kind of where my head goes.
Yeah. I don't get it. I thought things might be different with new management, but I guess not.
Now, if you look at it from a perspective of they have extra cap space, so you might as well try to throw it all at somebody and flip them later. Okay, you could talk me into that maybe, but I think even more valuable than that is getting your young players reps.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know. That it just kind of frustrates me if I was a Pistons fan.
Yeah. Okay, the last guy we'll cover today, DeAnthony Melton.
Ooh, was he on the Sixers?
Yeah.
I'm gonna go Heat.
No, he's on the Warriors. Um, Another one of those depth moves they made. bringing in Kyle Anderson and Buddy Hield and the Anthony Melton here. Just another vet guy that can come in and you can rely on him to produce and play make a little bit. And so I think they did a really good job at filling up their roster with guys that can play and kind of um, provide winning basketball for them. So I'll give that a B plus as well.
All right, well, that was a good segment.
Yeah, we'll finish those up next time. Um, we got almost halfway through them, but most of the rest of the guys won't require as much discussion. So, um, next up, we're going to do our Thunder player rankings for today. So let me pull that up here. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see it. But here we go. Today we have 12 guys. Um, all guys that played in the 2019-2020 season, but didn't play later than that. There are kind of a lot of them because after this season, we fully embraced the tank and dumped a lot of these guys. Um, but yeah, we'll spend a little more time than usual on them just because there are some notable guys here. Um, but yeah, we'll start it off here. Yeah, well, in case you're new to the show, we rank each guy on a scale of 1 to 10 on 5 categories: stats, impact on winning, personal opinion, longevity, and culture. And then that'll give us an average score out of 10. And then by the end of this, we will have a complete ranking of all the Thunder players from years past of best to worst. So we'll start with Danilo Gallinari. He played just that one season in 62 games, um, almost 30 minutes a game, almost 19 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, shot 44 from the field and 40.5 from three. So um, we acquired him in the Shea Paul George trade, um, kind of just like a salary filler almost to make it work. But then he wound up being a great player that started for us and had a lot of cool moments. Um, he was fun to watch and really was a big reason why we were able to win a lot of games that season when we didn't really expect to. These are great stats. I will give these stats here. I'm just looking to compare a little bit to other guys. Um, I mean, I'm gonna give him a 7.5 there. He was a great player. And then impact on winning. Again, he started and we won a lot of games when no one really thought we would. I'll give him a 7. Personal opinion, I liked him. Would have loved to see him around a lot longer. Cool to follow him throughout his career, but again, I'm sure I would have grown to love him even more if he was with us longer. But I'll give him a 6.5. And then longevity just didn't stick with us that long because um, we kind of wanted to be bad actually after this season. So I'll give him a 3.5. Well, I'll give him a 3 on longevity, just one season. And then culture, I'm sure he was a great guy. An Italian guy, bet that brought a lot of experience to a group of young guys. So I think he was a good fit with us. I'll go with a 6.5. So that brings his average score to 6.1.
All right. Next, we got Devin Hall. He played 11 games with us. He scored 1.8 points, zero point 0.6 rebounds, 1.2 assists. He shot 23.5% from three. Those stats are pretty abysmal. We're going to go with a 1. He had no impact on winning. Let's go with a 1. My personal opinion of him, I really don't have one. Anytime that he'd be on the court, I kind of questioned what he was doing there. Uh, let's go with he probably is a nice guy though. Let's give him a 3. Longevity, played 11 games. That should warrant, let's see. What do we have Justin Robinson at?
A 1.
Let's give him a 1. Culture, he's probably a fine culture guy. Let's give him a 5.
Whoa, that's higher than any of these scrubs.
Oh,
Well, no
my
disrespect.
fa my face is blocking it here. I can move my face. Um, yeah, let's give him a. I'll be a little nice. Let's give him a 4.
Okay, that puts his score to 2. And then Kevin Hervey, also a guy in that draft class, very similar to Devin Hall here. 10 games, 1.7 points, 1.2 rebounds. I'm just gonna copy and paste this line here for Kevin Hervey because
That's
I
fair.
I don't think the stats are very similar, played very similar amounts, and I don't think my opinions of them are very different from each other.
And they're drafted very close together in that same draft.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. Justin Patton. I believe he's who we traded for Isaiah Roby. So I think that's probably the best thing that he did. Um, scored 1.8 points per game, 1 rebound, zero point 0.4 assists in 5 games. He really doesn't have many other things to that are notable. Um, he can get a zero point 0.5 on longevity. Um, impact on winning, he can get a 1. Um, personal opinion of Justin. Oh, I meant sorry, I didn't mean longevity on the zero point 0.5. I meant stats.
Okay.
Personal, there we go. I was confused. Okay, personal opinion. Let's go with 3. I don't really have one of him. Longevity, zero point 0.5 is good. Um, culture, 4.
All right, that puts him at a 1.8 overall. Next, we have Chris Paul. He played just that season in 70 games, which was almost all of them because of the shortened season. 17 and a half points, 5 rebounds, 6.7 assists, 1.5 steals, 31 and a half minutes, shot 49%, 36 and a half from three, 91 from the line. I think that warrants an 8.5. He was an MVP candidate that season. He was the reason, well, one of the main reasons we surprised so many people by making the playoffs. We, I kind of didn't expect a lot out of him when acquiring him for Russell Westbrook because he had kind of regressed in his last few years with the Rockets, and I thought maybe he wouldn't even play for us. But then he came in and brought some great leadership. That was one of the best seasons to watch, just having him lead it. He made some amazingly clutch shots. He was a killer from the mid range and a great playmaker. And so it was just awesome to have him on our team that year. And impact on winning, I'll give him a 9. He was great. Personal opinion, I love Chris Paul. I've always loved him. And then it was awesome, even more awesome to see him on the Thunder for that season. Um, 8.5 here. And then longevity, I mean, just that 1 year. I wish he was with us longer. I'll give him a 3.5. And then culture, just one of the best culture guys you can ask for, just mentoring guys like Shea, just bringing a lot of veteran leadership. And I mean, he's had more experience than just about anyone we've ever had on the team. I'll give him a 9.5. So that brings his rating to a 7.8.
All right. Deontay Burton was another fun player. Played 2 seasons for us, averaged 2.6 points, 1.2 rebounds, zero point 0.4 assists. Um, those stats are pretty bad. Let's be real. 1.5. Impact on winning. He really did not have an impact on winning. Let's go 1.5. Personal opinion, I do like Deontay. I think he's a really cool guy. He was an interesting player. I think he was a very unique player. Um, let's go with a 5. Longevity, he played 2 seasons for us, 71 games total. Can we scroll up to see if that kind of is similar to anybody? 2 seasons.
Um, Kind of like Jang, maybe out of three.
Yeah, we can go with a 3.5. I'll give him a 3.5. Um, culture, uh, let's go a 4. Maybe a 5 on culture. He seemed like a cool guy.
All right, Abdul Nader. Um, he played 2 seasons, 116 games. In 13 and a half minutes, he scored 5 points a game, 2 rebounds, 45 from the field, 35 from three. Um, I'll give these stats a 3.5. Impact on winning, he was part of the rotation both of those seasons when we were trying to win. He was a good, reliable shooter. I liked him. Um, didn't really expect a lot about out of him when we acquired him. But he provided more than maybe people thought. So I'll give him a 4. Personal opinion, I like him. He's fine. Nothing too notable, but I'll give him a 5. And then longevity, played more than a lot of these guys. I'll give him a 4.5. And then culture, I don't really know a lot about him, but I'm sure he was fine. So 4.5 here too. So that gives him a 4.3.
All right, next up we got Nerlens Noel. At the time that we acquired him, he was one of the biggest free agent acquisitions that we'd ever had at that point. He was still actually really young in his career. He was coming off of kind of a failed stint with the Mavs. He was kind of injury prone with the Sixers. He hadn't really gotten a good chance anywhere. So the Thunder provided him that. He played 2 seasons for us. He averaged 6 points per game, 4.5 rebounds, zero point 0.7 assists. Those stats are pretty solid. Let's go with a 4.
And 1.5 blocks there.
Oh yeah, 1.5 blocks. That's pretty good. Also, how many threes did he shoot? He was 1 for 3. I do not remember that 3-pointer he hit. Um, his impact on winning, he was a pretty good bench role player. Let's call it a 5. Personal opinion of Nerlens, I really liked him. Um, come to think of it, I can't really remember how we parted with Nerlens, do you?
Um, no. Let me let me pull it up.
I'm trying to think if he,
Because I think he was on the Knicks after us.
yeah,
Yeah.
because he's bounced around because I think he's also played for like the Nets. Um,
Yeah, he just signed with the Knicks after the 2020 season.
then what happened to him after that, do you know?
Then he was traded 2 years later to the Pistons, and then they waived him a year later. Signed with the Nets for a little bit, signed with the Kings for a little bit. So
Yeah, he just really never stuck with anybody. Personal opinion of Nerlens, I really liked him. I remember he had that kind of fiasco in the middle of his 2 seasons with us where he re-signed the contract, then came out and said that he needed more time to think about it. Remember?
yeah.
And I tweeted him and personally begged him to re-sign. So I'm partially to thank for his second year. Personal opinion, let's go with a 6. Longevity, 2 seasons, 138 games. It's pretty solid. Let's go. Will you scroll to the top and see what we've given players? Uh, oh, like that. Let's see. Teo Maladon.
Like a 4.5.
Yeah, let's go 4.5. Culture. I think he was probably awesome culture guy. Let's go with a 6.5.
All right, that gives Nerlens a 5.2. Next up, we have Dennis Schroeder. I love Dennis Schroeder. He played 2 seasons, 144 games, 17 points a game in 30 minutes, 3.5 rebounds, 4 assists, almost a steal, 44 from the field, 36 from three. He had some great moments with us. He was a six man of the year candidate. Um, it was awesome to see that season, especially running lineups with him and Chris Paul and Shea all on the court together. Um, he was um, elite. So I will give these stats an 8. Impact on winning. He was a very key contributing player in 2 winning seasons. I'll give that a 7.5. Personal opinion, he's awesome. Um, it was really fun to watch him play. He seems like a great guy and a great leader and humble. So I will give him a 7.5. And then longevity, uh, similar to these other guys, but I'll give him a 5 there. Culture, again, a great guy, seemed like a leader, and I will give him a 7.5. So that gives him a 7.1 overall. Loved Schroeder.
Yeah, I did as well. He had like the best inbounds play ever where we would just kick it
Agreed.
to Schroeder on the fadeaway on the baseline.
Mhm.
Um, Next player we've got is Terrence Ferguson. He played 3 seasons with us, 191 games. He averaged, let's see, 4.8 points, 1.4 rebounds, and zero point 0.7 assists, half a steal. Those stats are nothing crazy. Let's give it a 3. Impact on winning. The craziest thing about Terrence Ferguson is of recent memory, he was one of the worst starters that we had. Like, he started many games for us. Just because we didn't really have any better options at that point, at the shooting guard spot. And I really don't think like, even though he was on some good teams, he was on those Paul George teams. Um, like, I just don't think he had really a high impact on winning at all. Like, to the point where I'm gonna go with kind of the Nader zone with 4. Personal opinion, I really think he's probably a wonderful guy, but I think my personal opinion is just tainted by his play style. I thought he was kind of a one-dimensional player where he was just kind of a spot-up shooter in the corner, and I thought his form was wacky. I thought he was uh I thought he was wildly inconsistent. When he shot the three ball well, he shot it well, and then when he didn't, he really didn't. Overall, he was a 33% shooter with us from three. Let's go with a 5. Longevity, he was with us quite a while. Let's give him a 6. Culture, I'm sure he was a fine culture guy. Let's give him Nader zone 4.5.
That puts him at a 4.5 overall. Next up, Steven Adams. Steven Adams is one of my favorite Thunder players of all time. He was an awesome guy. Off the court, he was hilarious. And he was fun to watch on the court too, and really contributed to a lot of different versions of our team. So he played 7 years, 530 games, 27 minutes, 10 points, 7.5 rebounds, a block, a steal, an assist, 59% from the field. I'm gonna give those stats a 7. He was very solid. Impact on winning, he was just very consistent, provided a big body in the paint, and he was a great screener. He was our starting center when we made some deep playoff runs. Um, I will give him an 8. And then personal opinion, I mean, I don't know if there are many guys that I liked more than Steven Adams. It was really sad to see him go. Um, I'm going to give him a 9.5. And then longevity, he was here for a long time. I don't even know if we haven't had anyone He
Yeah,
would
what did we give Shea? We gave him
share
a
7.
7.5.
So I'll give him an 8.5.
Yeah,
And then culture, I mean, perfect culture guy. Everyone loved him. He loved Oklahoma City. It was great to have him be a part of our team all those years. And so I'll give him a 10 on culture.
I would agree with that.
So that gives him an 8.6. So he's going to be pretty high up there.
Yeah, definitely deservingly so. He's a great, like, I think that these rankings are kind of built for him with two categories on personal opinion and culture, which he should absolutely dominate because he's one of the best people ever, with a great personality. And also he was with us forever. Andre Robertson, another kind of fan favorite here. He was a defensive menace. He played a good starting role for a lot of seasons up until he got hurt on the Carmelo season, and then he stayed on the team and kind of even made a bubble appearance, hitting a few big three-pointers there in the bubble. He played a total of 6 seasons for us, 302 games, 4.6 points, 4 rebounds, 9 assists. Now,
Point
and
9.
oh yeah, sorry, zero point 0.9 assists, and then also zero point 0.9 steals. Um, Now, not even letting my personal opinion of Robertson inflate the stats. I mean, keeping it real, those are not flashy stats by any means. So let's go with a, let's go ahead and go with a 4 on the stats. Um, yeah, that's just keeping it down to earth with on paper what the stats show. Impact on wins now. Here's where he takes off. He had an extremely high impact on winning. Night in, night out, you put him on their best player, and he will make life not very fun for him, the other player that night. So, impact on winning, let's give him an 8.5. I think he has an extremely high impact on winning. You need a guy like Robertson. That's why I think it was really, I think we're kind of spoiled because we went from having Robertson to right after Robertson leaves, we get a guy like Dort. Like we've never seen a Thunder team in recent memory without just a perennial perimeter defender. Um, and I think Robertson probably um is the best defender that we've ever had on the team. Um, Personal opinion, it's also got to be pretty high. Like I think 8.5. I love Robertson. I think he is a terrific guy, just like Adams. Um, I think the only thing that brings it down a little bit is his excruciatingly bad 3-point percentage and free throw. He was a career 46.8% from the free throw line for Oklahoma City. Longevity though, 6 seasons, that's pretty special. Uh, what did we have for Shea up there? 7.5.
So, for 5 seasons.
Let's give Roberson an 8. Culture, I think he's a great culture guy. Let's give him a 9.
Boom. That puts him at a 7.6 overall. So if we sort this real quick to see where everyone fits in with all the players we've already ranked. Um, just a second. We were kind of all over the board today, but we had Steven Adams slide in at the number 2 spot, right between Shea and J Dub. Now I'm sure guys like J Dub and Chet will go up and pass him as they increase their longevity and things like that. Chris Paul is number 6 between Chet and Aaron Wiggins. And then after Aaron Wiggins, we have Robertson, followed by Joe, and then Schroeder at 10, right before J Will. Then we have Gallo at 17, between Horford and Diallo. Then Nerlens Noel at 22, between Lindy and George Hill. Terrence Ferguson's at 27, between Ty Jerome and Teo Maladone. Abdul Nader's at 30, between Moses Brown and Micic. Burton's at 45 between Charlie Brown and Davis Bertans. And then Devin Hall, Kevin Hervey, Justin Patton are down there at 61, 62, and 64. So I think those are all pretty accurate. And it's nice to see the list coming together.
Now, to the naked eye, what player that we ranked today kind of when you see what zone they're in, you go, yeah, they belong in that range the most.
I mean, most of them seem pretty solid.
For me, I really like the Danilo Gallinari and the Horford range.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good.
He's exactly tied with Horford, which I think is
Yeah,
is
that's fair.
perfect.
Um, I really like Devin Hall and Kevin Hervey down here, 61 and 62.
Yeah, that's perfect. Considering we copy and pasted them
Those are
together,
good fits.
they will forever be paired in Thunder history.
I just like seeing guys like Adams, Paul, Robertson, and Schroeder here at 2, 6, 8, and 10. Those seem like good slots for them.
Yeah, they were all extremely valuable.
And then I like I like Noel at 22. But yeah, that was fun. A good bunch today. So we'll bring you guys more rankings next time. And we'll also finish up our off-season transaction recap next time. And yeah, you got anything else for today's episode?
Just thanks for watching. Click that like button, subscribe, and we'll keep getting you more content.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
All right. We'll see you next time.
See ya.